If you're investing 10,000 rupees a month in a mutual fund SIP or multiples like 20k, 30k, it could be a costly mistake. It could be costing you money instead of making it. Why? Because your SIP amount is not optimal. In this video, I will show you why tweaking this to 9,000 rupees or even 12,000 rupees can make a massive difference. The idea was inspired by a real investor experience that made me rethink this entire SIP strategy. Plus, I will reveal how to calculate your perfect SIP amount and uncover a surprising mistake that most SIP investors make. So watch till the very end. And if you enjoy learning about investing strategies that challenge the norm, please consider liking this video. It will help me reach out to more viewers and also keep me motivated to make more such insightful content. First, a quick check. SIPs aren't just convenience. They help tackle a very important risk called sequence of return risk, the risk of poor returns due to poor timing. Consider two investors. Kishore faces negative returns in the very first 5 years of his investing, unfortunately due to a market crash. But Mukesh, when he started at another time, enjoys positive returns initially and then followed by negative returns later. Let's say over a period of time, both of them gain the same average return of 8% per year. Investor Kishore's portfolio is significantly smaller. This is because of his early losses that permanently reduced long-term growth. Although both of them got the same average return, Mukesh's portfolio is several times larger. SIPs manage this risk by spreading the investments over time. This reduces the impact of market crashes or volatility, although the upside will also be curtailed. Now let's dive into the topic of today. Is 10,000 rupees an optimal SIP amount? Most investors choose 10,000 or multiples like 20k, 30k simply because it feels like a nice round number. But here's the issue. It's not a number that is calculated backwards based on your financial goals. These round numbers are mental shortcuts. They are psychological traps we fall into. These are not deliberate choices grounded in sound strategy. When you evaluate this against your net worth or your cash flow, you will realize the lack of clarity about how this SIP is fitting into your long-term plan. Is 10,000 rupees aligned to a specific goal? When will you achieve it? Or is it just a convenient number? Most SIP investors miss the mark here, not understanding how SIPs and compounding will work over time, or how to link this to a tangible goal. Now here's the most critical point. Research in behavioral finance clearly shows that not having a goal for your SIP significantly reduces the chances of you sticking to the SIP. Without a defined purpose, you are very likely to stop the SIP and withdraw the funds at the first instance of an unexpected expense or a tempting alternative, maybe a new investment idea or a vacation or buying a new gadget. This behavior is very normal, that the mind always looks for alternatives that are better than what you already have. But this is very disruptive to the compounding process. It stops you from building large corpus. On the other hand, when your SIP is tied to a meaningful goal, like say saving for your newborn or saving for your son's or daughter's 18th birthday, it's a milestone. You are very likely to not pause or withdraw from the SIP because it's no longer just an investment, it's a promise to yourself for the future. This is called mental accounting. This is a very powerful goal-based investing method. It anchors discipline in you and helps you compound uninterrupted. But why 9,000 instead of 10,000? Often we fail to plan for emergencies, and when a crisis arises, the first instinct is to sell mutual funds because they are highly liquid, probably the most liquid investment. Just click a button and the money comes into your bank. Here's the problem with equity mutual funds, because they are meant for long-term goals, not short-term needs. Typically, long-term assets like real estate are very illiquid, making it very hard for you to sell. This forces you to stay invested in it, and that's one reason why real estates compound over time. You can't sell them easily, so you stay invested by default. Mutual funds, however, don't align with this principle due to their easy liquidity, which ironically undermines long-term wealth creation. To resist this temptation of selling mutual funds prematurely, allocate say 10% of your SIP amount, say 1000 rupees, into an emergency fund like a SIP into a liquid fund. The balance 9000 SIP can continue into your goal-based equity fund. The liquid fund kitty can be redeemed whenever you have a temptation to sell or you have an emergency. So you actually don't disrupt the long-term SIP fund. You don't stop it from compounding. Think of it like a sapling growing into a tree. You don't want to chop it before it bears the fruit. So this 1000 rupees SIP actually allows this 9000 rupees SIP to compound. These 1000, 10,000, these numbers are all indicative. It is meant to explain the concept clearly. You can fine tune these numbers based on your individual goals, your risk profile and situation. This reminds me of how the ultra wealthy think. In a previous video, I spoke about this concept of old money. Ultra rich don't invest in just one thing. They create a layered portfolio, balancing risk with liquidity. The 9000 SIP plus 1000 safety net is exactly that mindset in action. If you're not someone who believes in setting specific goals, but you simply want to invest whatever you can today to achieve financial freedom, then why should you increase your SIP by 20%? That is from 10,000 to 12,000. Many investors underestimate their own earning potential and financial elasticity due to a behavioral bias called the present bias. We overemphasize the current limitations that we have and we underestimate the future growth potential in income and saving capacity. That is why 20% increase in SIP from what you feel comfortable today would be the right choice for most people. Consider this, your salaries grow, promotions happen, businesses scale, but expenses don't increase at the same rate as income. An annual salary hike of even 5 to 10% can easily accommodate a 20% bump up in SIP. So it's about aligning your investments with your future self's capacity rather than your current mindset. So this is about being aware that we are naturally conservative. We overestimate current day challenges and underestimate the power of tomorrow. There's also this concept called lifestyle creep. As incomes rise, we tend to spend more on discretionary items like dining, travel, gadgets. Redirecting even a small part of this increase towards SIP early on ensures that your future goals are secured. Otherwise, lifestyle inflation erodes the surplus. Lastly, let's not forget the power of compounding. An additional 2000 invested monthly might seem very small today, but over a 20-year period, even a 12% CAGR, it can add up to an additional 20 lakhs. That's incremental. So increasing your SIP by 20% is not just about numbers. 10,000 SIP isn't really bad, but there is a smarter way to do it. Whether you adjust your SIP to 9,000 for safety net or increase it to 12,000 for future growth, align your SIP to your goals, your risk appetite and life situation. And I said I will talk about a surprising mistake that many SIP investors make. Many SIP investors assume that continuing their SIP for 5 years guarantees a 12% return. That's a myth. There is no guarantee. Look at the rolling returns data. A 5-year SIP in Nifty 50 has delivered 12% return 64% of the time. That means 36% of the time the returns are below 12% and in some cases they can even be negative. Now let's change how we look at it. Instead of focusing on the 64% of the times the return exceeded 12%, think about the 36% of the time they did not. This flips the narrative and helps us understand the risks better. It is this uncertainty that highlights the importance of allocating to other assets like fixed deposits, provident fund or gold alongside your equity SIPs. When we view data in the reverse, the need for diversification becomes crystal clear. In fact, there were rare 7-year periods when the SIP return of Nifty 50 was less than 10%, and this was due to a sharp market fall in the final years. At that time, extending the time frame by another 1 to 2 years led to a sharp recovery. You can see that in this chart. You can pause and take a look at it. Look at the yellow cells. That's what I just explained. If you prefer content like this, please consider liking this video, sharing this video with your friends, and subscribing to this channel.